A show based on the facts, honesty, the man, the myth, the legend. ChristiTutionalist, Joseph M. Leonard.
Hoping everyone will have a happy Thanksgiving, as well as moving into the month of December, of course. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, and it won't be long. Happy New Year. Welcome to ChristiTutionalist Politics Podcast, aka CTP, in association with TheLibertyBeacon.com, and I am your host, Joseph M. Leonard, and that's Leonard. CTP is your no muss, no fuss, just me, you, and occasional guest type podcast. Really appreciate you tuning in. As Graham Norton would say, let's get on with the show!
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to ChristiTutionalist Politics. Today, I am joined by Michelle Jewsbury. It's Jewsbury. So I had to ask, is it Bury or Berry? It's Jewsbury. So Bury on the end there. And we know each other through Trent Brock. And Trent Brock, having been involved in your project of breaking the silence, voices of the survivors. So before we start with that, of course, the logical place to start is cue the Who song. Who are you? Who, right? Where we're born, raised, all that good stuff.
Got it. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Joseph. I'm excited to talk with your audience. A little bit about me. I grew up in a small town in North Idaho called Sandpoint, Idaho. Moved around my whole life. My daddy was in the military, Army to be specific. And wow. I always knew that my parents were my biggest cheerleaders. And now they're no longer with us. They still are my biggest cheerleaders, which is amazing. Well, moving was very challenging for both my brother and I. However, I excelled in school. I was a varsity cheerleader. When I graduated high school, though, I wanted something even more. That something even more for me was to move to Hollywood, California, and pursue an acting career. And things were going well. I was starring in plays and films and doing everything that I thought was on my way to stardom. And then I ended up meeting somebody, this blonde-haired, blue-eyed boy who swept me off my feet. And it turned out to be a very, very violent relationship. I had no idea what I was facing. I never experienced domestic violence in the home. Fast forward, I escaped from him 4 years later. I sue him for the abuse that I endured. And I ended up writing my story. In that writing process, I wrote and performed a 65-minute solo play about my experience in domestic violence. And that's when people started coming up to me and telling me their stories. And that's when I felt a calling from God to do even more. In 2017, I founded a nonprofit organization called Unsilenced Voices. We began in West Africa. So we've done a lot of work in Ghana and Rwanda. The bulk of our programming is in Sierra Leone. We've also done work in the United States. And in 2019, I began speaking and coaching. And along that journey, I discovered that it's not about Michelle Jewsbury, but providing a platform for other people to tell their stories. Hence the book you just lifted up.
Let me hold it up again. There it is.
We have a book collaboration project called Breaking the Silence, Voices of Survivors. And if you've listened to Trent Brock, he is one of the authors in that book. We also teach a program called Legacy Camp, which is a 12-week group coaching program to help people tell their stories through book publishing, public speaking, and creating courses and content for monetization. And then, of course, we have virtual summits every year, between 2 to 4 every year, giving people the platform to be able to share their stories. So, Joseph, that's just a little bit about me.
People hopefully heard the interview I did with Trent Brock. He is how you and I connected. I don't remember the date that interview aired. I should have made a note of that, but I'll put it in the show notes. And obviously in the show notes, I'll link your michellejewsbury.com and unsilencedvoices.org, which of course we'll go over again. What year was this book? Again, for those behind the scenes on the video channels, you could see the book. For those on audio, why aren't you watching on the video channels? But at any rate, what year did this actually publish?
So, Breaking the Silence, Voices of Survivors, Volume 1, published in January of 2024. And we are publishing a volume every October from here on out. So we'll publish Volume 2, October 2024. We are currently looking for Volume 3 authors. So if you know that you have a story that you want to tell, please go to michellejewsbury.com. Again, michellejewsbury.com. You can book a meeting with me and we can see if that's a good fit. We only have about 10 spots left for Volume 3, but that will be published in October of 2025. And then every consecutive October, we will have a new volume published.
A good ongoing thing that will help people. I myself am a suicide attempt survivor, as well as a leukemia cancer survivor. So I'll probably be reaching out to you about maybe putting a chapter together. So we can talk about that later offline. That's not something to discuss.
That would be great.
Not something to discuss in the middle of an interview. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No problemo.
What other books, right? At your site, there are some free download stuff. You can download a chapter of What Other Fair.
Yeah, so I have published a variety of other books and been part of different collaborations as well. My first book was called But I Love Him. That published in 2019. That's my experience in a domestic violence relationship. So all of that is factual except for some names, dates, and locations. Fast forward, I have been a part of a couple of collaborations. One is called A Dose of Hope. The other one is the 262 Project. And then, of course, Breaking the Silence, Voices of Survivors. I am publishing my second full-length book now. So we are in the process of pitching to publishers and literary agents. If for some reason it does not get picked up by a traditional publisher, we will self-publish. When I say we, my editor and I, Jim Martica, amazing guy, we will publish that book in February of 2025. So that is called Your Ultimate Breakthrough. It's steps to overcome challenges in your life and different ways to see the world despite what it is that you've gone through, and giving you practical tools to utilize so that you really can conquer the world and achieve the dreams that you want no matter what. And then, of course, Volume 2 will be published in October of this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're busy. And I also remember from the site that there's a download related to Guide 5 Steps to Overcome.
Yeah, so that's a free digital download. If you do visit michellejewsbury.com, there are 3 different links right on the home page there. The first one is the 5 Steps to Overcome Challenges. You can download that. It's a visual platform, so it's literally 5 steps. That's very visual. It's just a PDF download. And it is all about recognize thoughts, feelings, words, and then action steps to help you overcome. And then there's a free digital download of the introduction to But I Love Him. And then, of course, a link to book a meeting with me, whether you want to tell your story, collaborate, or just get on the phone and see what can happen.
I've often been accused of being challenged. For those on the audio only, I'm doing the, the crazy person fingers around the head thing. But that's not the kind of challenge you're talking about, obviously.
Well, multiple different challenges. So the people that we work with, clients have faced all different types of adversities, from domestic violence and sexual abuse and human trafficking to disease, suicide attempts, homicide, addiction, mental health crises, all kinds of different ailments that people have experienced. Trent Brock, for example, is a 3-time cancer survivor, and he has published his story in Volume 1. He will also be a part of the Volume 2 book collaboration, and he is going to publish in Volume 3 for 2025. So his Volume 2, we just got done editing chapters, and it really leaves you in a cliffhanger. But I am so excited. We have a couple of authors that are continuing to tell their story in this book collaboration, but many of them are telling their story on their own now, giving them a platform to do so. One of the women that I worked with in volume 1, and there have been multiple, of course, but she is a cult survivor. Her name is Martha Cartui, and she has now published her own book, and she's speaking on different platforms worldwide, sharing her message. And that's the entire purpose of publishing a book, is to get your message out there. But it classifies you as an expert in your space. Only 2% of the population actually publishes a book. When you're a published author, then you get access to being interviewed on large networks like ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox. And those networks then will interview you about a book. They won't have you come on and talk about speaking engagements or products and services. But if you have a book, they want to talk to you about that. So since we've published volume 1, we have been interviewed on Fox 13, ABC Action News, and Bay News 9. So a lot of exposure just in the past 7 months. So it's been really great for a lot of our authors. It's an amazing opportunity to showcase your story and also put you in that category of expert.
Yeah, and as you said, it opens it up then to come out of a podcast like mine, like Trent did. I forget, I think we connected through podcast guests, maybe Matchmaker FM. I don't remember right now because it's been a while, but yeah, we connected, and indeed, I joked with him. He wins. He's beat cancer 3 times. I've only had to do it once. So he gets the trophy, right? We got to keep a sense of humor, and thankfully, indeed, Trent does have a great sense of humor.
He does. I love working with Trent.
And I had the page bookmarked to Trent's section there of Breaking the Silence, Voices of Survivors, Volume 1. He is Chapter 4, The Ultimate Underdog Became the Overachieving, if I could talk right, Overcomer. So going to look forward to Volume 2 then to see what Trent puts in as a follow-up, and I'll probably have to have Trent back maybe I should, hopefully, maybe we can work it that I can have you and Trent back at the same time to have a 3-way conversation about Volume 2. That would be great, I think.
Yeah, no, that would be awesome. And then Trent for Volume 2 right now, he is Chapter 5, and his chapter is called The Journey Within, The Journey Begins. It's a great addition to what he's already contributed for Volume 1. For Volume 2, for all of your audience members, if you go to michellejewsbury.com and click on the little books icon on the top right-hand corner, then you can actually enroll to receive a notification on when Volume 2 is dropping. It's real easy. Just go to michellejewsbury.com/pre-sale. Now, that pre-sale page will get you a link to where you can enroll, and we will notify you when the book launches.
It's hard to keep all this information available, so
excuse me, it's not pre-sale. It's michellejewsbury.com/pre-order. But you can find that. Yeah, you can find that on the top right-hand corner of my website.
Okay. And I hope my audience has a pen and paper and taking notes. Or, of course, this is a podcast. You can always skip back, hear it again when you need to, or skip back and write it down. I highly recommend Volume 1, so I am certain I will highly recommend Volume 2 and 3 and 99 when it comes out. Yeah,
that's wonderful.
Being a suicide attempt survivor myself, there's a lot of relatability, and a cancer survivor myself, there's a lot of relatability. And I know people out there probably can use, I don't know that something like this is available and would be very beneficial for them, so that they are in the you're not alone boat. through experience of others, you might find some solace and some peace for yourself.
For volume 2, the common theme in volume 2 is grief. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody's talking about grief, but that is a common theme. And I would say at least 5 out of the 20 authors are talking about suicide, whether suicide of their friends and family or suicide attempts themselves. So there is that common theme because mental health is a big crisis right now all over the world. So people are talking about it because the only way to heal is to feel through pain. And in order to do that, it takes speaking up. It takes writing, whether it's stream of consciousness writing, writing a blog or a book, writing in a diary or doing a journal every day. And then different types of therapies. So whether that is traditional therapy where you sit down with a therapist and talk out your problems, or it could be a non-traditional type like art, using art for healing, music for healing. So there's all kinds of different ways to express yourself, but making sure that you express yourself so that you can feel through the pain and heal.
My Terror Strikes Coming Soon to a City Near You book, when it dropped in 2022, it has a suicide prevention sub-theme in it. Being a suicide attempt survivor myself, I felt that as part of my calling in and through that book, and at times through interviews or through whatever other opportunities to indeed make the point. All life has value and meaning. You may not see it on a daily basis. You may not see it for months or years. Just because you're not seeing it or getting an immediate feedback doesn't mean it isn't happening. You don't know what tomorrow brings, or next week, or next month, or next year, or next decade until you carpe diem it. And even little things you may never realize. Smile to a stranger, right? I like to talk about the old Pantene commercial. They tell two friends, pretty soon you got a movement, right? So your little gesture may spark a gesture from somebody else to somebody else who may help someone down the line. You don't know, and unless it's Clarence, like It's a Wonderful Life, shows up to show you firsthand, you may never know, but I guarantee your life is providing some value to others. And if you help someone who then saves someone else's life, who then their child goes on to cure cancer, a particular cancer or another, you had a small part in that cancer being cured. And again, you may never know or see it, but it may be there.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Podcast fans, get more about your favorite podcasts via deepcast.fm, transcripts, and all kinds of extra available information on your favorite podcast, including ChristiTutionalist Politics Podcast, is listed at deepcast.fm, as well as, are you a podcaster? Well, you can claim your free listing and more via Deepcast Pro. Check out tinyurl.com/DeepcastPro for podcasters for your free listing, and that's the number 4 in there. tinyurl.com/DeepcastPro for podcasters, the number 4, Deepcast Pro, the number 4 podcasters via tinyurl.com extension. Take care, all. You gotta check them out. Get more out of your podcast, whether you're the podcaster or the podcastee. Yeah, I think I just invented that word.
Yeah, God definitely uses our stories. So no matter what your story is, you are then able to help.
And again, it may not be overt. It may just be something small and in passing. You never know. I find some value of my own life now in that thought. Again, just little things I do may brighten someone else's day, which then brightens someone else's day, which may down the line save a life.
Your story definitely can save a life. There's been many individuals, for example, in my first book, But I Love Him, who have picked up the book, read the book, given it to friends and family members. And a few of them personally have messaged out to me and said, this book saved my life. It encouraged me to leave my abusive situation, or encouraged me not to commit suicide because I feel like I'm not alone. And oftentimes people will throw away their stories like it's trash, right? We pop our collars saying that we're just fine. We don't want to talk about it. We're okay. However, if we keep our stories to ourselves and we throw our stories away, then we are actually holding on to the treasure that could help another individual. Oftentimes, trash is somebody else's treasure. And it's so important to be able to use that voice to speak up.
As the British would say, we put on that face, that keep that stiff upper lip, right? And wander around pretending like nothing's happening or nothing's wrong. And that doesn't help you, and certainly doesn't help others. If you keep that bottled up, it will eat away at you. And again, by sharing it, can help others.
Yes.
Are you still in Idaho now, or?
No. So I left Idaho when I was 20 years old, and I moved to Hollywood, California at 20. And I actually moved to Florida January of 2022. So I currently reside in the Tampa Bay area, so Tampa, Florida. I do a lot of traveling. So while we're recording this podcast, I am actually sitting in Los Angeles. And then from here, I go to Idaho to visit some family and friends. And then I go to Washington State because I'm a huge Dave Matthews Band fan.
Oh.
And Dave Matthews Band does Labor Day at the Gorge. So it's a 3-day experience, I should say. Experience is a good word for it, but I'm a huge concert goer. I love going to concerts, especially DMB. And I think it's important for people to have a release. So this is my summer vacation in a sense. And then from there, I start working again. I'm going to an event in Las Vegas, early September, called Secret Knock. It's a really great event hosted by a man named Greg Reed. And then from there, I travel back to Tampa and then back to Vegas for the Now Honors with Teresa Goss. And then, of course, the Biomed Expo. So I get to speak at both of those. And I think in the intermittent, I am also speaking at a nonprofit event called Safe Space in Florida.
So you're busy. Yeah.
Yeah.
to let the cat out of the bag, not the exact date, but yes, we are recording this in August. And as we said before we started recording, I do not have a specific drop date yet for this episode. So when you're hearing this, just know, we recorded it in August. It won't air in August. It may more likely be October. But again, things are fluid. I move them about as things happen.
You can find information, just go on to michellejewsbury.com and there's a link there that says, what does it say? It says stay connected. That's easy. So just hit stay connected and we'll get your email address. You'll find information about the book, anything that we're doing with Unsilenced Voices, any product services, and of course, all the speaking engagements all over the world that I will be at.
Yeah, I love Vegas. I have been there since last I was there at the Sahara in 2006, right before they were going to renovate it and turn it into the SLS or whatever it is now. So, yeah, it's been a long time since I've been to Vegas. A lot has changed since then. So I don't really need an excuse to go to Vegas, but maybe that could work out.
Yeah. There's been a lot of change just since the COVID pandemic. And I think that people are in a different realm. I don't know a better word to use right now, but pre-pandemic versus post-pandemic, we lost a couple years in between there. People are confused. They have anxiety now going back to work. There's all kinds of different things. And it's great to go back to in-person events and kind of slowly integrate back into the way society is meant to be, where we are in person talking with one another. It's interesting. I typically have meetings with clients. You can book calls with me, and I actually still have phone calls. So people sometimes get confused when I call their cell phone versus having a Zoom link, for example. They're like, wait, what's going on here? And I'm like, well, I'm kind of old school, I suppose. I want to hear your voice. And if we decide to work together, then I'd love to hop on a Zoom and find out even more.
Glad you mentioned the Wuhan hysteria years, because when you mentioned it before, I meant to feed off that and got sidetracked, and I forgot until you mentioned it again. One of the press releases I put out regarding terror strikes, because of, again, the suicide prevention sub-theme in the book, was indeed about the escalation in suicides during the Wuhan hysteria period, as people were isolating, and the uptick, especially in children, because they were really isolated and completely away from everything.
And that's not even including the uptick in domestic violence, sexual abuse victims, child sexual abuse victims, so CSEC and commercial sexual exploitation. Pornography has increased, mental health has decreased, suicide, homicides. I mean, there are so many stats out there where being isolated is detrimental to your health, to not stay isolated. I have a client, a potential client, I should say, that I had a conversation with a few weeks back, who is located in Australia. And in Australia, they had you locked down for 2 years. You were like in a less than a 5-mile radius around your house or your apartment. And it was horrible for a lot of Australians. And depending on where you live, if this is an international podcast, you could be listening to this in Pakistan or Australia or the Europe or the United States. If you are sitting in the United States, oftentimes we don't understand and recognize what's happened overseas, just over the pond in Europe. And then you go further east and then go to, Asian countries and then Australia and all of these other countries where the mental health crisis is huge. I work a lot in Africa, so I go to Sierra Leone quite frequently. Just the discrepancies between what we think is Africa and what actually is Africa is just so severe. One of our girls, for example, today, she got into an accident. Her name is Salia Matu. She is a wonderful student of ours. She's been with us for almost since our inception. So I'd say 6 years we've been working with Salia Matu. We rescued her from the streets, and she was in this tragic accident. Well, in Sierra Leone, they don't have direct access to the medical care that first world countries do. So this accident, she is not being x-rayed. There are no CAT scans available. The doctor just comes in and pokes at her and says, "Where do you hurt?" So it's really interesting to see the need in other countries. And I know we're going off on a tangent here, but Unsilenced Voices is all about giving people a voice worldwide. And these medical advancements in first world countries really need to be given to a lot of third world nations to help them. And then this AI and all these technologies coming out. And by the time, you're listening to this podcast, this could be years after we've recorded this episode. And the advancements are going to be so far-fetched that I don't even understand what it looks like 2 years from now.
Yeah. Well, and it's sad because like you said, I mean, Africa is as varying as different parts of the United States can be. We still pretty much have sound and solid water delivery and electricity, but parts of Africa still do not.
Many parts of Africa where we work in Bo, Sierra Leone, the mass majority of people we work with, they don't have running water and they don't have electricity. our girls are trapped in the brothels. Even if they no longer participate in sex work, there's no housing for them. So then the brothels serve as an apartment complex, but they're so disgusting. There's no water, there's no electricity. The toilet systems are so bad that some of the girls keep getting reoccurring STIs because of sanitation. And this is mind-boggling to think about, coming from a first world nation, that there are countries, there are places out there where these people are not treated as human beings. And I know, in America, people need help as well. I go to different parts of the United States and it feels like it's a third world country. However, in every city in the United States, they have access to running water. They have access typically to some toiletries and a toilet area. There's access to housing. Yes, they got to put in work. In other countries, there's no access to any of this.
Right. And that kind of leads me back to my terror strike book. My personal philosophy has been, and therefore I have my character say it in there, things could always be better, but they can often be worse. With what we have here, we take for granted. And yes, it could be worse here, but think how much worse indeed others in other areas of the planet have it, before we whine, moan, and complain so much that it could be so much worse.
Yeah. So this is why we need your help. So if you're listening to this podcast, Unsilenced Voices was founded in 2017. We do a lot of work with sex workers, with individuals who have experienced sexual defilement, human trafficking, domestic violence. A lot of our girls are anywhere between the ages of 11, one of the youngest ones, up to like 35 years old. And all of these people need your help. We also work with men. We work with two villages in Sierra Leone. And then we also published a curriculum called Graced for Prosperity here in the United States, where people who have experienced extreme violence, like domestic violence, can learn using this curriculum how to find, financial prosperity, how to overcome their challenges. And then in 2022, we also gifted $33,000 to USA survivors, did a 4-city tour. So we need help. One of our next goals is to build a school with housing component in Sierra Leone, and then in the United States, a day center with wraparound services and emergency housing in the Tampa area. So, the US, it's about 2.2 million. In Sierra Leone, it's about 150,000. We need both. So the 150 is going to probably come sooner because it's easier to obtain 150 than it is 2.2, but you never know.
Right. And are you aware of a site called Story Rocket?
No, I am not.
Okay. It is a site where people who are authors can put their books to get it in front of movie producers, potentially to adapt into a screen adaptation. And I'm thinking, remember what Sound of Freedom did for human trafficking. Perhaps a small independent studio might pick up and put out an Unsilenced Voices or a Breaking the Silence movie as another aspect of, or just one of the aspects. And that would greatly lift all those voices.
Yeah, and I've actually thought about using my first book, But I Love Him, and finding a screenwriter so that we can come up with a script and pitch to some publishers, promoters, producers, directors. I know a handful of people because of me living in LA for so long, but that definitely would bring even more exposure, especially to domestic violence. And as we're speaking, I know that Blake Lively just did a film called It Ends With Us about domestic violence. And I saw the film. It was a great film. She did a great job. Typically, domestic violence looks a little different because it's worse. The type of individual she was dealing with was more of a narcissist, And I don't think that he would have let her go so easily. However, they did a good job of portraying what domestic violence could look like. And it's important for people to realize that 1 in 4 women in the US, 1 in 7 men in the US experience domestic violence. Worldwide, 1 in 3 women. This does not include any of the sexual defilement, the 200,000 kids that are being trafficked in our borders in the United States, or the over 2 million children worldwide that are being trafficked. So it is important to bring advocacy and awareness to a lot of important topics.
Yeah, well, I would urge you to indeed, you don't have to find a screenwriter. They can find one for you.
Yeah.
If you put your book on storyrocket.com, indeed, someone might gravitate to it. As I said, My Terror Strikes, Coming Soon to a City Near You, is still up there. I'm still shopping it, hoping, because that book is, yes, about terrorism, but it's really not about death. It's about life and living. And I want somebody to pick that up to show that aspect of it, rather than it be like a Clancy book movie about terrorism, a different angle on it to tell a different story. And your first book, I can indeed envision people being interested in it, and a whole lot of people watch that Story Rocket site, and you might get picked up that way.
I think that would be a good option. So I definitely will look at that. Thank you so much for the recommendation.
Oh, you're most welcome. Having you on is not all about just me helping to promote my show. It's about obviously being able to help you as the guest further promote your projects and what you're doing. It's not a quid pro quo, but it's an unspoken thing in podcasting. We should help each other.
Yes, that's the way it definitely should be, for sure.
We've mentioned it a few times, but let's give out your 2 sites again, where to find you.
Yeah, definitely. So before we end, I would love to leave your audience members with something important. I know that we've talked about some heavy topics today. So there's a movie called Finding Nemo. It's I always end every podcast interview with the same way because it's very important. In Finding Nemo, Nemo gets lost. And Nemo's dad goes out and tries to find Nemo. Well, Nemo, along his journey, he meets a fish called Dory. And Dory is an airhead. So Dory, every 15 seconds, forgets where she's going, what she's doing. However, the one thing that she keeps singing to herself is just keep swimming. And I want everybody to remember that despite what it is that you're going through, just keep swimming, because you don't have to stay stuck in those circumstances. It's your choice to break free, and it will be your choice to determine how those experiences define who you are or how you get to define those experiences. You can find me at michellejewsbury.com. Again, Michelle Jewsbury, JEWSBURY.com. You can also find information about Unsilenced Voices on that site, or go directly to unsilencedvoices.org. Again, unsilenced, UNSILENCEDVOICES.org. Thank you so much, Joseph.
Oh, you're welcome. And of course, links to those will be in the show notes to share with everyone. And I'm glad you ended. I like the Finding Nemo Dory kind of angle there. That's a wonderful way to put it, because even, I never had kids, but I still love cartoons.
Yes.
So, yes, I've definitely seen Finding Nemo, and that is indeed a good way to share it. And indeed, if you're an adult without children or grandkids or, little cousins that you babysit to put on Finding Nemo, watch it anyway, because now you've got a new lens to view that through via Michelle here. Oh, and I meant to tease you. It's like my sister's name is Michelle.
Okay.
Parents were a big Beatles fan, so
I was named after the Beatles song "Michelle, My Belle" as well.
Okay, that's exactly where I was going with that. So,
Yeah.
I'll tell my sister, indeed, there's another Michelle Maybell running around out there because
That's
of the
awesome.
Beatles song. So, thank you for coming by. I hope someone or everyone has gotten something from this broadcast. Maybe if you yourself don't feel you got something, think of someone you know that needs to hear what we talked about today and share this episode on video or audio, whatever, with them. Help others. That's in part what my show is about, helping ourselves and as Christians, wanting to, as our own personal commandment, to be our brother's keeper through community, not forced communism. We are to want to help others, not be forced to help others.
Wonderful.
Take care.
Bye, guys.
God bless. See you next time. Wait. Don't go away yet. I thought of something that I should have brought up with Michelle that didn't enter my mind at the time. And to be quite honest, I just came from the local ice cream shop and they had a song on, an old 50s or 60s song. Remember the I Can Help song? I don't remember who does it. Didn't think it important enough to bother to look it up, but that reminded me. Now, that is more or less kind of a love song, a love letter, a guy to a gal. It would sure do me good to do you good. Let me help. Okay, let's take that in the abstract. That's an important concept here and goes along with what Michelle and I were discussing. Would sure do me good to do you good. I can help or let me help, right? Religious or not, most people understand the concept of karma. It's not always viewed in the right way, but human nature. If you exude happiness, you're bound to get some of it back, or mostly that back. If you're, pardon, cover the kid's ears, an asshole all the time, why would you then be surprised that if negativity is what you get back most of the time? So the point being, no matter how down in the dumps we are, we may be indeed putting on that facade, that imminence front, to quote another song, Townsend and the Who, at least on occasion, to try to pretend to be happy so we get happy back in return. And that happy we get back in return, which is why I like to joke a lot with people, brings smiles back. It helps ourselves when we can help others to be uplifted and happier and better off on their day. So that's not to say, of course, you can't vent. We all have to at times vent. My point being, though, is that if you always vent, if you're always negative, if you're always dragging others down, don't be surprised why nobody wants to be around you. So you can help yourself by putting on that front and helping others, right? Giving others a smile, even when you're not necessarily happy, elicits a smile back often, which indeed can then make you feel better. A lame pun, as you know me as Jokester Joe on Savage Unfiltered, and I can't avoid the lame puns, even lame, stupid humor. Let me give you a joke. I tell it a lot in restaurants. I've never shared it with the audience yet. There's a coffee manufacturer, more industrial type coffee makers by the name of Bunn, B-U-N-N. Now, I'm sure it's a plenty wonderful, whatever the origin of the heritage of that last name is, perfectly fine. However, think Schmuckers, right? Schmuckers knew that, ooh, boy, this this name might be an issue. So the brilliance of their ad strategy of, with a name like Schmuckers, it has to be good. Absolutely brilliant. But at any rate, the Bunn Company and their coffee makers that are in a lot of restaurants, and whenever I see one, I always joke with the wait staff and even sometimes the customers that are there. Look at the name of the coffee maker. I don't understand why anyone would want coffee that has been filtered through somebody's buns. Bum, right? Dumb, lame joke, potty humor, but it still can elicit a smile back. And guess what? It might even then trigger them to want to tell you a joke, maybe just as lame, maybe better. But, if they indeed share a joke that then earnestly can trigger a laugh in you, you're helping others, then helps you. It makes the world a better place. Karma in that sense, right? If you surround yourself with upbeat people, it helps you be more upbeat. And if you're indeed, like I suffer anxiety and stress still, and indeed bouts of depression, it sure does me good to do you good. Let me help, right? I crack a lame Bunn coffee maker joke. It elicits a positive response 99 times out of 100. And that in turn, indeed, earnestly and honestly helps me feel better. And I didn't think of that while speaking with Michelle as part of this whole overall thing. Now, again, with the book that I spoke with Michelle about, again, this is not to say you cannot and should not share your story at times. But if that's what you're on all about all the time, negative, you're going to dwell in that negativity all the time and make yourself worse. You're going to make others around you worse, which in turn feeds the cycle. They down in the dumps when they're around you, then makes you even more down in the dumps. So indeed, I bet you know I'm going to say it, right? At any rate, indeed, that karma in that sense can matter. It doesn't have to be tied to a religious notion. Just the concept of karma in that sense is you often get what you give, right? It isn't going to be true all the time. You could be positive and somebody else having a bad day may react badly, react negatively. We're human. We're all frail. We're all flawed. We all have bad days. The point of this is trying to avoid having a bad day every single day of the week and month and year and decade. So indeed, help others, help yourself. And again, in closing of segment 2 here, you don't know what tomorrow will bring until you carpe diem it. As we discussed, suicide attempt survivor, it took many years for me to then see that what would have been missing if I'd have been gone and my family needed my help being here. Also, so many years later, an Amazon bestseller. Now, obviously, you may or may not write a book or record an album. Back to the point, like with Michelle, little things matter. And unless Clarence, like in It's a Wonderful Life, comes down to try to earn his wings and show you all those little things you didn't pay attention to. Remember, It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah, he stopped the druggist from poisoning a kid, which ruined multiple family lives. It's a movie. It's a movie. It's meant to be overly dramatic to make the point. You may never do anything that big, that grand a scale, but little things matter. You don't see it. You don't notice it. Doesn't mean it isn't there. It isn't happening, that you are adding value to other people's lives. And again, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you never know what might come your way, what you might accomplish in life later, or equally as important, by helping others. The Pantene thing, again, 2 friends, tell 2 friends, tell 2. The other lives you touch, you indirectly affect that book coming out, that album coming out, that person, as I spoke with Michelle, that person's son or daughter curing cancer, that guess what? That little trickle down effect, it wouldn't have happened if not for maybe just something silly, stupid from you. You think little and unimportant at the time, that really is matters. Every drop in the ocean matters to building up the overall mass. Okay, I went a lot longer in this second segment than I expected, but being at the sweet shop, I just felt like I had to cover this. Thank you all. I'm not sure if the video froze on your side of things or not, but it froze on my side. Thank you all. Take care. God bless. Have a good one.
Hey, gang, a brief interruption in the show about Christmas giving, kind of, sort of, or to ask, are you a coffee drinker? What about other coffee drinkers you know? It's indeed Christmas giving time, Hanukkah giving time. Again, I want to ask you, those coffee drinkers on your gift giving list, socks that'll get put in a drawer, they forgot you gave them, a tie or a shirt that'll end up buried in the back of the closet, they forgot you gave them. How about something useful, like Blackout Coffee? Yes, I am partnering with Blackout Coffee. You can use promo code JOSEL20, Joseph for Joseph, L20 for 20% off, JOSEL20 promo code. Or better yet, I've created a shortcut, tinyurl.com/blackoutcoffees. And of course, Blackout Coffees all run together as one word, not 3 separate words. So again, tinyurl.com. I love using their shortcut services, /Blackout Coffees. Should take you right in and automatically apply your 20% discount. So for yourself or for others, this Christmas, give Blackout Coffee something you know they're going to use, something they're going to enjoy, something that they then fondly remember you and your gift every time they sip from the Blackout Coffee cup of coffee. Thank you all. Take care. God bless. Merry Christmas. Thank you for having tuned in for ChristiTutionalist Politics Show. If you haven't already, please check out my primary internationally available book, Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you. Available anywhere books are sold. If you have locally run bookstores still near you, they can order it for you, or autographed copies are available online direct from me, via terrorstrikes.info/shop. Be sure to check out more about today's discussion at thelibertybeacon.com, where my articles drop every Saturday. And let me remind, over time, the fancy high production items will come, but for now, for starters, it's just you as a very appreciated listener by me. All substance, no fluff, just straight to key discussion points. A show that looks at a variety of topics, mostly politics, through a Christian U.S. constitutionalist lens. So again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Take care. God bless. Like and subscribe to ChristiTutionalist Politics Podcast and share episodes. We need your help.
It is a myth that terrorism stopped during COVID. Unfortunately, mainstream media opted to prioritize pandemic hysteria over promoting all news. Terrorism continues. Simply hoping that it doesn't affect you is not a strategy. The new book, Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you, featured on The Author Show, is now available in paperback from bookstores, online, or as an ebook exclusively through Amazon Kindle. Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you by Joseph M. Leonard. Order today.